Lying son of a bitch! Sylvia looked at the footscale in absolute disgust. Closing her eyes to banish the unpleasant display of numbers, she began to think about a dream she had recently. Smile back on her face, she turned on the water and began to fill the bathtub. Removing her robe, she rolled the last of her stash into a fat blunt and sat on the edge of the tub as it continued to fill. "Today will be a good day," she said, exhaling the deep puff. Blindly, she reached for the faucet to turn off the water, repeating the mantra, and placed her foot into the tub. The icy cold water caused her to jerk to her feet, lose her balance, and as she went crashing into the floor, she had a perfect view of her freshly rolled and lit, last of her Mary Jane, fly through the air like a basketball, and in slow motion, pass through her grasping hand to land perfectly in the middle of the toilet. Today, insulted by Sylvia's mantra, was not going to be a good day. Gertrude lined up her vessel, with the field behind Six Rocks Bar and Grill, excited to see her new friends again. She could tell a light snow had fallen recently, and her temperature gauge indicated it would be rather cold. Exiting her shuttle, the wind cut through her soft fur like a knife, and she hurriedly bounded inside. The bar was thankfully quite warm, but almost completely empty. Sylvia was wiping down the bar as she entered, a cross look painted on her face. "Vitjes guptat," Gertrude said cheerfully. Sylvia looked up with a glare that could melt aluminium. "Sorry, I didn't hear the door. Gertrude, right?" Sylvia said, her face becoming less dangerous. "Regit Mike?" Gertrude asked. "Right behind you," Chef Michael said, surprising her. Chef Michael was carrying a package of to-go boxes in one hand and indicated to Sylvia about the translator with the other. She grabbed from the cupboard below the bar and placed in her ear. He then headed back into the kitchen with the supplies, leaving the two of them alone. "Bad day?" Gertrude asked. The storm clouds gathered again in Sylvia's face. "I don't want to talk about it," she said flatly. Sylvia opened a bottle of beer for Gertrude and retreated back into the kitchen as Chef Michael re-emerged with a piping hot glass dish. "Sylvia is having the worst day imaginable," he began. "She's been on a rant about it since I came in." Gertrude thought about how to respond for a moment. "Is there anything I can do?" she asked eventually. "I've already tried to cheer her up," Chef Michael replied. "Maybe you can succeed where I fell, but don't push your luck too far." Chef Michael placed the hot dish in front of her. "Piperade," he said, and disappeared back into the kitchen. Gertrude picked up a fork full of the stewed peppers, onions, and tomatoes. The sweetness of the peppers and the slight spiciness blended well with the salty tomatoes and earthy onions. It wasn't ratatouille, but it was a welcome, warm, and delicious meal. Sylvia had returned while she was eating, and the food gave Gertrude the motivation she needed to try to make Sylvia's day better. "I don't know what you're going through, being a different species and all, but I'd like to help if possible," Gertrude said. Sylvia shied away as she spoke. "I'm sorry, it's just a really horrible day. A lot of stuff happened this morning," Sylvia said. "You want to know what I do?" Gertrude asked. "Sure," Sylvia replied, a look of curiosity brightening her face a little. Gertrude looked around the empty bar. "I like some daijin and a glass of pune." "What are daijin and pune?" Sylvia asked. "Daijin is a herb my species consumes to relax, and pune is a drink we make. We sniff the daijin to get a feeling of euphoria, and the pune is usually served hot. It tastes kind of like your tomatoes, but spicy," Gertrude said. Sylvia looked at Gertrude forlornly. "I was trying to soak in the bath with a blunt earlier, and..." A tear escaped Sylvia's right eye, and Gertrude pulled her in for a hug. The warm fur seemed to loosen Sylvia's taut muscles and absorb her tears. Gertrude stroked Sylvia's long hair for what seemed like an hour, allowing her to get it all out in a hot and ugly cry. Chef Michael, aware or unaware, was smart to stay the hell out of the bar and give them just these few private minutes. Feeling better, Sylvia stepped back and went for a tissue. "Thanks, Gertrude. I needed that," she said. "Any time," Gertrude said. "I got an idea. Your species is still uncontacted, right?" "Yep," Sylvia began. "We've only been as far as the moon." "Got some time?" Gertrude asked deviously. Chef Michael said he would watch the bar, but to make it short, as Gertrude practically dragged Sylvia to her shuttle. She helped buckle Sylvia into the co-pilot seat, and then shot beyond the atmosphere. Sylvia felt like she was on a roller coaster, as the vessel passed just beyond the pull of Earth's gravity, her head forced into the oddly shaped headrest. Below them, the planet slowly rotated, and Sylvia unbundled to get a better view. Breathless and weightless, she hung inches away from the viewport, just catching the sun disappear beneath the expanse of the Pacific Ocean. "I've always wondered what it would be like up here," Sylvia said, the horrible days she had been having melting away. "All species do, I'm told," Gertrude replied. They hung there for a while as Earth continued its spin beneath them, and far-off places Sylvia had only read about or seen on television passed beneath her eyes. Tokyo, Beijing. She had no idea what they were as they passed, just that she had become one of the privileged few to witness her species' cradle from so far above. "Will anyone see us?" Sylvia asked. "Doubtful," Gertrude replied. "We probably look like a satellite to most people down there, but I probably should be getting you back soon." Back on the ground, Sylvia was beaming from ear to ear, the morning from hell forgotten, and a new sense of childhood wonder followed in her wake. "I hope this will be okay with your boss," Gertrude said. "Happens all the time," Chef Michael said offhand. "The leaving, not the space travel," he clarified. "Glad I could help," Gertrude said. "I just hope nobody noticed." "The species come here all the time. No one ever sees them. You'd hear about it on the news or something," Chef Michael said, pointing at the sports game on the television. "You're probably right," Gertrude admitted. Would you like to go out with me?" Nobody had noticed for years, as species came and went. The odd abduction story or close encounter was recorded, sure, but nobody important had ever really noticed. Nobody ever would, right? In a small corner of Moldova, somebody noticed.